Welcome to today's episode where we dive into the extraordinary journey of Simone Knego. She is an international speaker, an award-winning author of the best-selling The Extraordinary Unordinary You, and she's co-host of a globally ranked podcast with her daughter Olivia called Her Unshakable Confidence. She's a two-time TEDx speaker, and her work has been featured on, get ready, ABC, NBC, CBS, and in Entrepreneur Magazine and Yahoo News. From climbing Mount Kilimanjaro to gracing TEDx stages, not once, but twice, in addition to being a wife of 32 years and a mom to 6 great kids. Simone has redefined what it means to live life without limits. Join us as we explore her insights on self-respect, overcoming personal challenges, and the power of embracing failures. Whether you're seeking inspiration or practical advice on building confidence, I think Simone's story is sure to resonate and empower. Let's get going. Welcome to my realm. I'm Tammy Jordan, and this is Butterfly Days, the podcast that proves you're not past your prime. You're living in it right now because women don't have expiration dates. Butterfly Days is a celebration of the extraordinary potential of Gen X and Boomer women. Throughout history, women have shared wisdom to uplift and empower one another. And you're about to learn hard-earned wisdom and best-kept secrets from interesting, inspiring women. So if you're ready to embrace your butterfly season with confidence, find joy in the present, and create a legacy that matters, you're in the right place. No more holding back. Let's spread our wings now. Here we go. Hey, thanks for being with us today. We are going to be talking to Simone Knego. As you just heard, she is rather remarkable. We're just going to run through a few of the things that you might not know about Simone Knego. She climbed Mount Kilimanjaro over age 40. I cannot even imagine. She has stood on a TEDx stage twice, not once, but twice. She has written a book and guess what? Written another book, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. She has started her own business. She is a hotly sought speaker and encourager. She also works with her daughter on an amazing podcast called Her Unshakable Confidence. What kind of a badass title is that? Welcome, Simone Knego.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
We are very excited to have you also. You and your daughter have this podcast, Her Unshakable Confidence, and I believe that that comes from your own understanding that you're even passing on intergenerationally. Is that pretty fair framing of that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a really interesting ride. We decided to do the podcast because we have these great conversations and we're like, we think other people might want to listen to these. And it's been really fun to watch her grow into her skin and how much the podcast has helped her, because especially when we have different guests on and they're sharing their thoughts and views and expertise on things, and all of a sudden like a light clicks and she's, I never thought about it that way before. And she has said, so we're 2 years into it, that she does things differently in law school now because she does feel more confidence when they call on her in class, when she has to stand in front of the room. And that's really from just putting ourselves out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think, here in this community, in Butterfly Days community, we talk a lot about confidence and you think she's in the beginning part of it and we're in the not beginning part. But do you think that continues for women to be an issue, and why?
I do think it continues to be an issue. I think a lot of it is societal. A lot of it is how we grew up. So it's interesting. One of the things I really focus on with my kids or women that I work with is self-respect, because when I was younger, I was taught to respect my elders, my peers, my teachers, all the things, but never myself. And that's the most important person to respect, because if you don't set boundaries, if you don't learn to say no, then how can you expect other people to truly respect you when you don't respect yourself? So that's one of the things that I really focus on. And I think for even like my mom, who's 86, she still struggles with that because she was never taught that, right? And then she's always down on herself that she's not good enough. I mean, the woman was a doctor. She became a doctor in the early 1960s, and she learned how to fly a plane when she was 18 years old. But that still didn't give her enough because the world beat her down, and she didn't have the tools to kind of bring herself back up. So yes, I do think it continues to be a problem, and a lot of it is we need to learn how to be kind to ourselves and how we talk to ourselves and respecting ourselves. That's like step one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what do you, okay. All right. I'll bite on that. I love that. And I think that's really true that we were taught to respect all these other people, but not ourselves. So, where do you start if you're going to try to respect yourself more? I mean, because if we don't, here's my thought, over 50, if you don't start implementing the kind of leveraging choices and behaviors that will, superpower to what your wisdom level is that you've achieved so far, to what you know, you're just not going to end up the way that you want. So we're about trying to get there. Help me out. What do you recommend to be able to respect ourselves more? What helps?
So I think one of the first things is really how we talk to ourselves and how we talk about ourselves. I have a little thing that I like to use called drop the just. So because when we describe ourselves, we usually say, I'm just this. I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I'm just Rob's wife. I'm just a middle manager. Oh, I'm just a volunteer. You're not just anything. All the things that we do make up who we are. And when we start using the word just, we're like justifying our existence, which we do not need to do. So I think that's a huge thing, is really how we talk to ourselves and how we talk about ourselves, because I've heard people say before, and I used to do it all the time. Oh, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. For the period of time I was a stay-at-home mom, or I'm just on the board. Like I don't work for the company, that kind of stuff. And that just minimizes everything you do. And usually when we do things, we should take pride in what we do. But there's not one person that I've talked to that doesn't use that word, right? And my husband will do it too. It cracks me up. I'm like, you're a neurosurgeon, and hello.
You can own that, dude.
We don't need to use the word just. So
I love that. I love that. And I think that's an excellent, we do wisdom pivots here on Butterfly Days. And I think that that's a great wisdom pivot, is to begin to become aware of and to try to reduce or properly eliminate the use of the word just when we talk about ourselves or our accomplishments, maybe even other people's. Because it's such a minimizer. I think if you continue to minimize and not properly respect yourself, it's going to bang into your self-confidence. And I know, man, just from my friend group, we continue to struggle with self-confidence. Why?
yeah, I think there's a bunch of different reasons. I think that, okay, we can talk about social media all day, but even in our 50s plus, we're still looking at social media and looking at everybody else's life and saying, well, why don't I have that? Or why? And that, to me, that's a shiny moment. That's not real. And it's having those authentic conversations. So when I was in my late 40s, I had put up a facade for so long that I didn't even allow myself to cry about things, because I'm supposed to be the strong one. I have 6 kids. I have it all together. And that's what everybody assumed. And on the inside, I am struggling because I don't have it all together. I am pretty miserable because I haven't figured out what I wanted. All these different things. And I'm sitting at this event and I literally break down crying after watching this video. And my friends were like, are you okay? What do we do? And then I shared my truth, and I talked about all the things I had struggled with for so long. And I think unless we start doing that on a regular basis and not saying, oh, my kids are perfect. No, I just did a video the other day that they think that 1 week out that I can now do everything by myself. And so when I ask for something, they're like, oh, God, really?
The eye roll.
Really?
God, I could feel it.
And I was like, 6 weeks is 6 weeks. I cannot lift anything. I can't put my hair in a ponytail, right? So,
Oh,
that's fine. But the point is that we go through these experiences in our life, and we're supposed to be a certain way, or we think we are. And so we try to hold that up, and we lose who we really are. And that's one of the biggest things, is that we're trying to pretend we're something that we're not. And we
yeah.
should, if we could just be ourselves
Mm,
and just tell our truths, it would be a whole different world.
I 100% agree. And if we could be the kind of friends who support the people that we love, the most, especially our girlfriend groups, be you. I love you because you're you,
Right.
and the beauty of that. The other thing is, if you don't, by this age, if you don't show up as you, we're going to miss what was awesome that was in the package that is your body in this lifetime. Whatever else you believe, we are going to miss that. What a shame. What
And
a shame.
but I realized it. So at least I had that moment where I was, why am I doing this? Why am I
Yeah.
pretending to be something that I'm not, just because everybody thinks that I should be that I should
Mm-hmm.
have it all together?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't have it all together, right? I mean,
Mm.
there's days where I'm just trying to finish the list, and it never gets finished. So,
Yeah. The eternal list.
yeah, but
Still,
yeah.
I mean, it's good. It's good to be, working towards something. There's value in that. But you're right. It, we're all we're all just doing this. There's a certain humility in that. That's not negative.
And I think so many people are afraid of being judged for whatever's happening in their life. So if you're struggling in your relationship, or your kids have struggles, right? I mean, we all have struggles. But when we don't share them, that's where we get really stuck, because then we have no one to talk to. And what I've realized the more I talk to other women about things is that we're not alone. So as soon as you bring up something that you're struggling with, guarantee the woman sitting next to you will be like, oh my gosh, let me tell you what's going on in my life. But you need to be a starter sometimes. You need to be the one that is willing to talk about what you're dealing with right now, because a lot of people are afraid of being judged. So if you
Mm.
can put that aside and say, I'm not afraid. Again, I respect myself. I'm proud of who I am, and I'm struggling, and I need help. And I would really like to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And just it's not only good for us, and it's good for freeing up the people that are around us, but it's really great as an example for those who are coming behind us, for our kids and for others. If nothing else, because to move the onus of how you see the world and judge yourself and judge it from being external to what the group would reflect to you about who you are, to keeping it inside and saying, yeah, maybe I have struggles, but I'm still fine and I'm okay. And if I share them, it will, it can serve all of us, someone who supports me or me from learning what they have to say. There's something super valuable in that when your confidence gets shifted inside you, you know?
Absolutely. So when I was in high school, and this is how my whole self-doubt cycle started. And everybody has a different background why they're struggling with something. But I had a very abusive boyfriend, and
Mm.
I just kind of squashed it down. I mean, my husband knew about it and my kids knew about it, but I really didn't talk about it to anybody else. And I never dealt with it. I just kind of said, you know what? It's done. It's over. I'll never let that happen again, because it was my fault, right? And so it took me a really long time to realize that all the things why I'm putting up this facade, all these things that I'm doing is because of that experience in my life, that shame that came along with it. And it was, as I got older, it was that realization of, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. I made the right decision to leave, and that kind of permission that I gave to myself, I don't need permission from anybody else, but that permission I gave to myself to really deal with what I was struggling with kind of changed so many things in my life. And I think a lot of women have similar experiences, or have some other kind of experience that has kind of taught them that you can't talk about things. Nobody wants to hear your story. And that is so far from the truth.
So far from the truth. And it's tied under that, that heavy door of shame.
Mm-hmm.
They would think poorly. I would be condemned, cast out, whatever your fear tied to it is. It's really, really important that I love that you got to the roots of what was holding you down, that you had the courage to look at that. I also had an abusive relationship in my past. And just what you said, I always thought, I'm never going to tell this story because I wasn't a victim. I left, right? But maybe that's mostly true. But there's a lot more to it. And just what you said, I owned it. And there are a lot of women who are listening to this that's going to resonate inside them. And I think both of us are saying that you don't have to stay in that shame.
Mm.
You can release, you can tell your story even and not be mitigated or minimized because you went through that, nor do you have to only be that part of your whole story.
Absolutely. And for some reason, for some women, it telling the story isn't what's going to help them, right? For some of them, it's too deep. The wounds are too fresh, whatever it is. But it's figuring out a way that you can really understand that it wasn't your fault and there is no shame, and however you want to deal with it, but you have to deal with it. And that's what escaped me for so long, is I just let it go thinking it's over, I'm fine. And didn't work that way. Any kind of trauma just doesn't work that way in general.
Yeah. And the other thing that it strikes me is that I thought people would, that I would be framed in a certain light if I told this story, and I didn't want to be part of that narrative. But the problem was I was the one who was framing me, not anyone else. And that the older that I've gotten, and I think this is really key for women in our age range, the older that I've gotten, the more that I've realized everybody's been around the block a few times. Once you cross 50, we've all seen some stuff. We have all had the kid that went off the rails, the marriage, whatever, that troubles fell apart, whatever, the job that didn't go the way that we thought it would. And the grace that you're able to offer to other people when you have it for yourself, that's important.
And going back to what you had started on, and then I took a little detour, was the younger generation, right? The people that are coming up behind us. And for me, it's so important for my kids to see and understand the importance of positive self-talk, taking care of yourself, respecting yourself, all of these different things that I didn't do when I was younger. And I look at my kids and I know they're not gonna take anything from anybody in terms of if someone is mean to them, they're just done. They're not going to welcome that person in because, first of all, life's too short, but they've also been taught that how important it is to respect yourself. Don't let people step all over you. And that's not an ego thing. That's not saying, it's just here's how the world should be. And so I think that's been really good. And I've had some realizations over time too. When we talk about younger generation, I had an experience with my daughter, who I do the podcast with, where I was getting ready for an event. This was several years ago, and I had gained some weight. And so she walked in the bathroom and I was, complaining to myself about myself, basically saying, I can't believe you gained weight again. Like, why don't you have any self-control? Like, you always do this to yourself. And she walks in and she's like, okay, you got to stop. First of all, you're beautiful. Second of all, how do you expect you're giving me a complex. How do you expect me to love my body when you don't even like your own?
Oh.
And bingo. And so it was one of those moments where I'm like, yes, how much when we think that we're just saying things and nobody hears, they hear everything. And so how do you want your kids to grow up? How do you want the people around you to feel about themselves, right? If you keep on talking negatively about yourself, that's what they're going to think. And that's what they're going to think is the right thing to do for themselves.
Yeah, it begins with you, and the story that you tell tells you. So if your story is, negative, 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 that's what you're going to find a lot more of. you know? I'm thinking that even no matter what age, it is always possible to be able to go back and to say, all right, I've lived this long not having reasonable self-respect, but even now I can bring it on board even more and know that that self-respect is going to fuel a little more confidence. And self-confidence is, I think it's really important. A lot of women in this age range are going to be looking at career segs, entrepreneurial options at this point, or things that they want to do post-retirement, and they're sort of looking to backfill it now to get ready. And I was thinking about that HP study. Do you know the one I'm
Hmm.
talking about women and confidence? You want to tell?
The one that women will only apply for a job. You
That's
know that
it.
one? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So women will only apply for a job when they meet 100% of the job qualifications. For men, it's around 60%. So the crazy thing about that is that if you're applying for a job where you meet 100% of the qualifications, you're overqualified. You've
Yeah, you
already
are.
done all the things. So we have to put ourselves out there more.
Yeah.
And for me, I started a new career in my late 40s, and
Woohoo!
I had, yeah, and I'm loving it. And I had plenty of friends say, well, don't you just want to retire and be done? And I was like, no, I don't. This is like,
No.
there's so many years ahead of me that I want to do all the things. And I finally feel like I'm in the right place. I've tried many things in my life, and I
Yeah.
really love what I'm doing now. And
Yeah.
I wake up every morning thinking, okay, this is so cool that I get to do these different things.
Yeah, I just think that you glow differently when your confidence is fueled by your belief in yourself and it's not about validation from
Mhm.
others. And I think in kind of making that bold choice to go forward with your career that you're in now, that's a lot of what you're giving out now. And I think it's a lot of the inner how dang good it feels, even though it's hard, even though it's tricky, to be able to be doing something that you almost feel like it's crazy to say, but I almost feel like I was born to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people think that comes in your 20s, and maybe it does, but I think they might be surprised that also over 50, there might be more in your tank that you were made for.
I absolutely think as you get older, you realize more what you were actually made for. You know, we have
Yes.
this program where we're supposed to know at 18 years old what we want to do for the rest of our lives. That's
Really?
ridiculous, right? And I don't think I know very many people that started in one thing and are still doing the same thing. Other than like my husband, he knew he wanted to be a doctor when he was a kid. But very few people, and I don't have the data on that, but I would say a lot of people switch over time because they're not happy. And as you get older, you realize, well, hey, this is what I'm really good at. This is what I really love. This is what I want to pursue. And you can make a career out of anything. I mean, look
Anything.
around. It's unbelievable. I love asking people what they do because sometimes it's amazing to me how people make money. And you're like, wow, never thought about that one.
Mm-mm. And just being able to employ creativity
Mm.
to what I might do. And it can be to for profit or for volunteer things are always blown me away. People who volunteer as grandparents or for kids that don't have one, or I have friends who volunteer at Habitat for Humanity. They manage departments within Habitat. I mean, there's just so many cool things that if you allow your creativity to fuel paying attention to what you're good at. You know, I think at this stage in our lives, maybe the first part was building what we're going to need now. But now, over 50, you know a lot about you,
Mhm.
you know? And you were talking the other day about your real process. Would you tell us about that? Because I think that could serve women who are sort of thinking about what next.
Yeah. So it's called the Real Method, and it is four parts to it. And obviously, each part has more detail, and this will be in my next book. So, yep. So
When is the next book due?
February 3rd. It
Oh,
takes a little while, but
yeah.
February 3rd.
Yeah, I love that. Okay.
Thank you. So the four steps are respect yourself, embrace your failures, ask yourself what you want, and live without limits. breaking it down a little bit. I mean, we talked about respecting yourself already, but that idea of setting boundaries, saying no. I was the yes girl for so long. I had other moms that would say, can you pick up my kid from school? Can you watch them here? And I'm thinking, I have 6 kids and I'm still doing all this thing. Like, why can't I say no? I just couldn't say no.
Yeah.
I say no pretty good these days. And then embrace your failures, because that's the thing, especially as we get older, if we want to try new things, there might be bumps in the road, and that's okay. That's how we learn. And when I was younger, if I got a no about something, then I was done. That was it. I didn't know how to move forward from that. And now it's kind of like, okay, how can I try that differently? What did I learn from that, instead of, oops, nope, never do that again?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the most interesting one for women right now, especially in our age group, is the ask yourself what you want, because so many women do not know what they want. They've been living for other people for so long, just doing the steps. And so what would you want to do? I have no idea. I've never thought about that. And so it's really going back to your younger self. What are the things that you did enjoy that you didn't get to do? So like you said, the volunteer work, music. There's so many different things that we can do to really kind of ignite the fire. But it starts with really looking at, okay, what do you want to do? And breaking it down to really, what do I not want to do? And what are the things that I really like? And what are the things I'm really good at? And then that all becomes a cycle of, how can I put this together to figure out what I want?
Yeah.
And then the last thing is live without limits. We limit ourselves all the time, right? We tell ourselves that we're not good enough, we're not capable enough, that we're not smart enough, we're not pretty enough, all of these different things. And it's so
Back
not
to
true.
Hewlett Packard there.
Yeah. And even crazier statistics. So Dove does this. They do studies all the time. And so one of their beauty studies showed that they did a poll around the world, and I don't remember how many women they polled, to ask them if they thought they were beautiful. What do you think the percentage was?
It's global, not just
Global.
Western culture.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 50. I don't know.
4%. 4% of women consider themselves beautiful. Right?
Oh.
So again, these are these things that we're limiting ourselves in every way. I want my girls to wake up in the morning and say, I'm beautiful. Whatever size you are, whatever shape you are, none of that matters. My daughters will send me selfies and they're like, look how beautiful I am today. I'm like, yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
But, and it's not like giving a trophy to every kid, right?
No.
I'm not that kind of, I always hated that when my kids were in sports where everybody wins a trophy. No, but it's so important how you feel about yourself and the permission that you give to yourself to be who you are, instead of trying to fit into some kind of mold that society says that you have to do.
And it is different saying I'm beautiful. When you say that your kids are saying that, part of what I hear is that they are not just focused on externals, but they're mixing what they know to be true about themselves and finding the beauty in that. And that's the powerful I'm beautiful.
Yeah. And I love the new trend. I say new trend, but you see some celebrities now that are going without makeup and again, I think people should be able to do, yes, people should be able to do whatever they want to do. Yeah. I mean, I wear makeup. And there's days I don't wear a thing. I mean, most times on the podcast, I'm just, but I think that we should be able to make that choice. Whenever we want to wear makeup, we can wear makeup. If we don't have to. If we're going to something really fancy, if you choose not to go, I am a jeans and t-shirt kind of girl. And so I've been to events that have been fancy events and have just come as I am. And I have that confidence now where it's not like I'm trying to be rude but I'm like, all these women are in these uncomfortable, some of them really like it, but majority of the women there on these uncomfortable dresses and they're thinking, I just want to go home. Maybe we should change that a little bit.
Yeah. There's just something crazy beautiful when you are living in alignment with your values. And I think that might be a super turbo aspect to living without limits is just to be clean in being proud of yourself, you know? Because then whatever you try next, even if it doesn't work, it came from such an honest place. I mean, do you think that's
Yeah, for sure. Even with going back to one of my daughters, she was, when we were talking about the makeup thing, and I thought this was a really good way of saying it. She's like, I put on makeup on the days I want to for myself. I don't really care what anybody else thinks about me wearing makeup. It's because, like, oh, I want to get fancy today, so I'm putting on makeup. But
I
it has
love it.
nothing to do with someone saying, oh, she looks so much better with makeup on. No, it's not that at all.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I mean, we impose these limits on ourselves, and because we think society says we should be a certain thing or act a certain way,
Hmm.
and the whole point is we shouldn't live that way. We should be able to do the things we want to do, accomplish the goals we have, and
Especially because you think, as you say this, it really becomes even more clear to me that a lot of our thinking about what we needed to do, be, say, have, or look like really kind of starts in a hot mess in maybe middle school, high school with the whole peer pressure thing.
mhm.
And over 50, we got to break that mold because it doesn't mean squat about you if your bank account is up or down dramatically, either direction. It doesn't define you. It doesn't, what car you drive, what labels you wear, where your kids go to school, any of those external things, they say nothing about the core beauty of who you are. And over 50, breaking that shell of saying, I will not allow anyone else to tell me who I should be or try to crutch on some external thing that will then give me value. Your value is you. I mean, I
Mhm.
think that's largely the meat of what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember being on, and I've heard this many times, but I remember being on a playground with the kids, and there was a nanny, and she had two kids with her, and one kid was trying to be the other kid and saying, no, I'm Josh. My name's Josh, and she's okay. Your name isn't Josh. I love you, but your name isn't Josh. Josh is already taken. You need to be yourself. And I was like, okay, that's so cute, but because it's true. We shouldn't focus on what anybody else is wearing, what anybody else is doing. We just need to be proud of who we are, and any permission that needs to happen needs to come from ourselves and not waiting for that external validation. Trust me, sometimes it's nice when someone says, "Oh my gosh, your hair looks beautiful today."
Yeah, that's
But it took
great.
it took me years to be able to say the word thank you, because I
Oh,
always would say, oh, no, I think it looks frizzy, or oh, you look beautiful in that dress. It's not really my color. And I didn't realize now, not only am I minimizing myself, but I'm minimizing their comments. Nobody has to give you a compliment, right? So I had to feel good about myself to realize that, yeah, take a compliment. Thank you. That's great. Instead of like, oh no. And it just went back to that I didn't feel good about myself.
and do you think that it's a little intimidating earlier in life, certainly when we're just all the attendant anxiety that goes with being young? But now to no longer reflexively brace for
Mm.
impact or minimize or be afraid if somebody's going to notice us, to maybe find more confidence in just taking up the space that we were meant to have here.
Yeah, I think that really is the whole point, is being able to be yourself in any environment, no matter who you're with, where you are, being able to truly be you, and again, not have that voice. I mean, we're always going to have that voice inside our head. There's a way, there's definitely tools. I have a tool that I'll talk about that we can use to kind of help, and I don't even want to say control it, but to help kind of make us realize that it's not real. But when we walk into a room, we need to understand that we are just as deserving to be there as anybody else
As
there.
anybody else.
And most of the time, every person is struggling as well.
Yeah. It's the crazy thing. And you know what? We know this. we know this. When you're young, maybe there's a pass for not showing up and acting like you're aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
But at this age, we know this. But you've already tempted me. I have to know your tool now. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So when I was climbing Kilimanjaro, it was hard because completely out of my wheelhouse. I mean, of course it's hard. That was kind of a ridiculous statement, but I mean, completely out of my wheelhouse.
Well, with the nature of mountain climbing.
Yes, hello. And considering I live at sea level and I had never climbed anything in my life before, but it was a way for me to kind of get out of my comfort zone. I was struggling so much at that time, and I think I really needed to realize what I was capable of. And what I realized was that on that mountain, every time I had the voice that said, you don't belong here, you're too old for this, like you had knee surgery, you're not going to finish, all these things, that I was able to kind of change the way I thought. So I call it Control Alt Delete. And so our age group should know that. That's the how we used to reboot our computers. It's actually used for something different now, but back in the day.
It is?
In the right day. Yeah, it brings up some kind of weird screen but it used to be how we would reboot our computers.
Yeah.
Now the kids are like, just turn it off, Mom, and turn it back on.
Yeah.
So
Smart Alex.
I know, right? Always. But the idea of it was it's really like a reboot for our mind. So understanding that when you have these thoughts, I don't want to really say control your thoughts, but understanding that you have the control to be able to realize, like, it's the awareness that these aren't real. Like, these are the negative things you're telling yourself, and you have the power to change them. And that's alt. Whereas instead of saying, I can't, say, I can't. Instead of saying, what if I fail? When I succeed. And then the last part is deleting the things that no longer serve you, because we all have these ideas that we keep in the back of our head saying, oh yeah, well, maybe next time, or, and so it's that cycle of really going through those steps and saying, okay, this isn't real. And how can I do this differently? And there's a lot of research about how you talk to yourself. And if you really look around and pay attention, you'll see that majority of people that talk negative to themselves, that's what they believe. Because the more times you say something to yourself, the more you're going to believe it.
You're affirming it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's why positive affirmations are so important. And 10 years ago, I would have said, this is ridiculous. This is too woo-woo for me. And but I do it every day. And the Control Alt Delete is like in the moment when you start spiraling, like it's like taking that step to say, okay, this isn't real. This is how. And I had this happen. I was going to an event. It was the first time I didn't dress up super fancy for a fancy event. I said, I'm wearing jeans. I'm wearing a jacket. I'm wearing fancy sneakers. And I called my daughter and she's, you look great. Go. And I was like, okay. It was really like hard to get myself out of the house. And then I started using it in the car. I was like, okay, first of all, do you think anybody cares what you're wearing, right? Have you ever cared what anybody else is wearing? And, you look beautiful, all those kinds of things. And then deleting, like, get out of the car. Like, don't hold yourself back from this. Get out of the car, go in the room. And I had the best time. Met amazing women. And the part that hit home for me was, of course, I had several people say, oh, I love that you wore jeans. Didn't know we could do that. That was the one woman who said, oh, I didn't know we were allowed to wear jeans, or I would have. I was like, so that was a great reminder of that you don't need permission to be yourself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, be respectful, but short of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not saying go like and rip jeans in a
Obviously.
t-shirt somewhere, but yeah, just still it was.
You know how to rock it right. I love what you're saying because it's a little different than I think maybe anything I've ever heard on the subject. I get a lot, and I think it's really important over 50, not only what you're going to add in or do, but that you begin to think about what should you edit, because all the browser windows you're leaving open in your life are sucking energy, right? So I'm thinking about what you're saying, and I there's been a lot of clean up your house, your environment. Start editing there. Look around at your friend group or people that you have connection with, editing there. But editing your thoughts and having good thought hygiene, for lack of just made that up. It's a powerful term. Feel
Yeah.
free to use it.
Yeah. It's true.
But
Thought hygiene.
seriously, that's amazing as an idea that if you're going to go through a decluttering phase, don't just do your closet, do your brain. I mean, do your thoughts.
Yeah. It's building habits, right? And so I've had people say, well, I tried affirmations before and they didn't work. I was like, how frequently did you use them? Well, I tried them once. I'm like, okay. And you also went to the gym once and you're super buff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the thing, is that it's the repetition. And so
Yes.
I call it mirror moments. I stand in front of the mirror. I, usually say 5 different things to myself. And then even if I'm going into a meeting or something where I feel like I need to get that control back after I do my whole process, it's like, okay, yeah, I am strong enough for this. I am capable. I got this. I know I'm worthy of this role. And it really does work. I've had actually friends who are like, and then they're like, oh my gosh, you won't believe what happened. I had to do this news. I had one friend who said, I had to do this news interview and it was last minute. And I just, that is not my thing. And so she's like, I literally stood in front of the mirror and did what you told me to do. And I really rocked it.
You got some
I was like, of course you did.
Yeah.
Of course you did.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it is important for us to be our own cheerleaders. And, there's such power in that, obviously. But I've also reminded, slightly different, but I have a dear sister friend who, for her mirror before she leaves, I've a couple friends, and one of them always says, you look good, before she goes out to herself in the mirror, which I love. And I have another friend, and this is not as specific to her. It's actually allowing people to support her. When any of us give her a nice note or a card or whatever that she loves, she made a thing on the back of her mirror and she drops it in there. And so when she looks at the mirror, she just remembers all the people that love her and that she loves herself too. And she doesn't walk alone. And for her, that's an important truth. She believes in herself already, but she doesn't walk alone. And I think there's room for both in empowerment,
Yeah, I love that. So what my daughter does, and because I do more of the stuff verbally, she actually has a cork board in her closet. So when she's getting dressed every morning, she takes any of the notes that people have written her or quotes that she really loves, and they're all on there. So as she's getting dressed, it reminds her of how much she is loved and all the different things that people have given her, like, oh, you did an amazing job with this. And I think that, I'm not saying that, again, external validation is bad. I think that especially when it comes from people who love you, it is.
Yeah, it's appropriate.
But it's just one of those things that also helps when you're trying to move forward, that you see like, wow, I really am loved. And okay, I can get through this day.
Yeah. And I love the idea of keeping it in a personal space where you can repetitively see it. There's a lot of value to that, into making sure that you stay on point to keep your language and your thinking in line with the truth of who you are and further who you then want to be. Right?
Yeah.
I love that.
And if I can pivot for a second, like we talk a lot about, so one of the things as we get older, that idea of leadership. And one of the things I'm working on right now is the idea of kitchen table leadership, that, we've been sold this narrow view of what leadership is, that you've got to be at the head of the table. You've got to be the CEO. You've got to be the manager. And that's not how it works, right? When you think about how many of our decisions have been made around the kitchen table, and that we all are leaders. We might be leading different things, but every decision we make is a leadership decision. And that's the other thing that goes back to our mindset, is that we'll tell ourselves that we're not capable or we're not good enough for this. And it's so not true, because we're making some of the most difficult decisions every day in our own lives, but we just have never been told, oh, that's leadership, so go with it. It's been more like, oh, you just have to do that.
Yeah, and I'm not a leader. How could I do that? Well, now you're disenfranchising your ability to run your own dang life.
Right. So I think that goes, thank you. I think that all goes together, is really kind of paying attention to the fact that we are all leaders. And if we look at ourselves in
Yeah.
that light, because again, like I said, for years, that idea of being a stay-at-home mom, I was at a dinner event once and I had a woman say to me, I was sitting next to a CEO of a big company, and we finally got on to, so what do you do? And I said, oh, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. And she was like, oh, I couldn't imagine anything worse. And I was so taken aback. And then I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe, yeah, maybe I'm not worthy of things. Maybe, and it's amazing. Like just
Oh,
that one comment
yeah.
can just throw you off so far. I mean, obviously I don't think like that anymore,
Right.
but it's really, it's like, that's why we have to have that inner belief that we
Yeah.
are exactly who we need to be, so that when someone says something, it doesn't throw you off your horse. You're just kind of like,
Okay, that's your thought.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah. Bless your heart. That's what we
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
you
though,
were a kid once, so,
yeah.
hopefully,
Yeah, yeah. I love what you're saying about the kitchen table wisdom and about realizing that you do broker decisions every day for yourself and for your best interest and for your good, and some of those are about choosing kindness for other people or all the things, but it makes me think to myself, it's such a great picture for me because it makes me think, wait a minute. So I am the CEO of Tammy Inc.
mm-hmm.
and you are the CEO of Simone Inc.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you have the courage, guts, and vision to run that right, holy guacamole, you got power. And nobody can take it from you, and they have their own power, so you don't need theirs.
Yeah. It really is that, again, that belief that this is what you're doing, what you're made to be doing, right?
Yeah,
And that not taking anybody else to say, oh, but that's not good enough, right?
yeah, yeah. And never allowing anyone else to define what's powerful. I think, I did not plan to, when I get to be 60, I'm going to have a podcast. That was never my thought. And yet, here I am. And some of the work and some of the encouragement and some of the wonderful things that have come from beginning the Substack last year are, I think, some of the strongest, most valuable work of my life to date. And I hope that going forward, I can build on that and do something more amazing with Tammy Inc. Um,
Yeah, I love that.
I'm now obsessed with this idea.
Yeah.
You've just started something super cool. But I just think somehow I want our conversation to really spark for women out there who have been reticent, afraid, cowed, caught up in worrying too much about what others would think, being afraid to be seen. Your understanding of confidence is so important. You know what? To break through that for people.
It's really understanding that the things you do, I mean, yes, your family is super important, but you have to really take into account yourself first. That's why they say it on the plane, put on your
Your
air
mask
mask
first,
first, right? But, and that's kind of like a stupid little comparison, but,
I liked
but,
it.
okay, but the idea that you have to take care of yourself and you have to understand, like, you're capable of anything you want to do if you put in the work, right? It's not. So this is what, like, I hate New Year's resolutions, because if you want to do something, do it any time of year, right? Set the goal, put in the work, move forward. And that way there's less pressure, because if you're waiting for New Year's, and well, 80% of them fail. So why are we working towards that? But
Is that the statistic on
it's huge.
resolutions?
Yeah, it might even be a little bit higher than that. So,
Wow.
and most resolutions are like, I'm going to go to the gym and get fit, right? And again, you can do that tomorrow if you really wanted to do it. You
Yeah,
don't need
if
to
that's
wait for
if that's a thing.
January.
But something, that is something that over 50. If you really wanted to do it, you could walk out that door in 10 minutes and do a little something different. And you also know, and I always think this is so important because it's just not taught, that real change it's very rare when it's cataclysmic and it just boom happens on a large scale. It's far more often happens because of Lego-sized choices that stack on top of each other. It's all your small choices, and one of them is how you talk to yourself.
Yeah, I think that the people think that, well, it's only the big, giant decisions that make a difference. And I completely disagree with that. I think it's the little things we do every day, the way we treat other people, and the way we treat ourselves. Again, if you wouldn't talk to your best friend like that, you shouldn't talk to yourself like that, right? That idea of putting yourself down, you wouldn't do that to your best friend. You would offer advice, you would offer to help, you would build them up, right?
Yes. And if she made a mistake, I wouldn't say, you bleeding idiot.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
yet I'm a loser comes out of my mouth far more often than I'm proud to even have you know.
Yeah. Well, and I think the idea is that you start catching that, right?
Yes.
And I'm not a loser. I'm not a loser. Okay,
I'm
so
not a loser.
Whatever. I made a mistake right here. Who cares? Move on. Move forward. What did I learn from it?
Yeah.
But these little things, the decisions that we make every day, and some of them take forever. The things that we're doing for our families, there's a lot of work that goes into it. That is important. It's not, and I think a lot of times I remember after I wrote my first book, I had a friend call and she was like, I always just used to look at making dinner as like just something I had to do. And now I take it's like a sense of pride that I'm doing something to nourish my family. And I'm not embarrassed that this is what I'm doing. This is something important.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And again, when it comes to families, like you're creating the next generation of humans. Make them great.
Yeah. And don't be cowed by the understanding that you have to tell them everything up front. Part of the reason why you and I can have a conversation like this is because we took our lumps and we learned from it, right?
Yeah.
And so we try to put all the things in our kids' backpacks, but we don't do so with the intention that we will completely smooth the road so that they develop no muscles to become finer humans.
Yeah.
But that they will know how to take their lumps and bumps and make it into something that's valuable.
Yeah. And I think that is part of it. I will be the first to admit when my kids were little, I did way too much for them. And then I started to realize this isn't helping and it's not helping me. Like I'm exhausted. So it really was about having them learn that, okay, these are the things that you need to do. And especially so our son, Noah, who just started college this summer. So he's on the autism spectrum and he's amazing. Like he's doing great in school but I did so much for him for so long that I was like, okay, now you got to learn real life. Like, okay, here's how you do your laundry. And he had to pick up his medications where he is. And so he had to take the bus to get there and do the things. And he did fine. But I felt like, okay, we're at a point now where everybody can do all the things now. And it's not. And yeah, I mean, I never felt bad that I was doing all the things, but I wanted to make sure. Oh, because my husband will say, and I'll agree with him that I'm sometimes a control freak about stuff. So recovering, because I'm admitting it now. But that idea that they need to learn how to do the things, they need to learn how to fall down so that they can learn how to get back up again.
Yeah.
And I don't think we allowed ourselves to do that. So that's part of the thing is really having this generation understand that take a risk. And if it doesn't work out, take another one. Don't just wait for something to happen. And that's why I look at, as we get older, how important it is to keep that mindset of, okay, maybe I didn't take a risk when I was younger, but let me take that risk now. Let me do something that I really wanted to do. Writing a book, speaking on stage, doing a podcast, going
have
to
a garden,
volunteer
paint
at
a picture.
Things that you just never gave yourself permission to do. This is the time. Give yourself permission, right?
Yeah. Even if you attempted something marvelous and it didn't work out, $5 says there's going to be somebody one day that sits around and says about you, you know what? She tried. And that's impressive. That's like the worst case scenario you got. The best case is it works out and it leads you to something else that's even more deeply fulfilling. Fulfillment and meaning and purpose, they don't just end with menopause,
No. Definitely not. And again, for me, I feel like this is just the beginning of things. What I'm doing now is really just the beginning. And like I said, I tried many things over my life. I went to school for accounting. I have a CPA. I went back to school to be a teacher. I flipped houses. I did all kinds of
I
stuff.
love
And
this.
I,
Yeah.
I worked in medical sales. I did so many different things trying to find my who, my why, and I finally did. So that's the
Yeah.
thing, is that it's okay to try something and it not work out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what tells you, okay, I don't like it. And even I was saying that to my daughter yesterday with all the different, so she's in law school and she's trying out, she's done some internships, shadowing, that kind of stuff. And she's like, well, I didn't like that one. I didn't like that one. Like, I feel like I'm wasting my time. I said, exactly the opposite. You're learning what you don't want to do, which is just as important as what you want to do.
Yeah. I had a lot of quite an interesting career patch, if we could put it that way. And recently, in thinking about it, it is extraordinary how all of those things, what I learned from them, have been lacing together to really bring me the kind of wisdom I need for this part of my life and for what I understand and what I'm capable of. And I kind of think in an overall economy, maybe there wasn't waste. Maybe it just didn't turn out or wasn't used in the way I thought. But now that I'm far enough into my storyline, I'm kind of like, oh, everything is being used in a way, if I was open to it. I think if you're mad, if you're bitter, if you got a lot of other energy on that, you may not end up with what you want. But it doesn't matter if you didn't get to go to law school when you were young. You're here now. What do you have now? What's beautiful now? What can you do now? And love yourself enough to try it.
Yeah.
100%.
I actually thought I was going to be a doctor. My dad was a doctor. My mom was a doctor. My sister's a doctor. My husband's a doctor. And I failed, actually, when I was dating my husband. I failed organic chemistry, took it a second time, got a D. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess it's not going to be medical school. And I've had many people ask me, do you regret not doing it? And I don't, because everything that I've done in my life has brought me to who I am right now and what I'm doing right now. And that's what matters. Yes, I have made lots of mistakes and had lots of bumps in the road, but I didn't stop. And I think that kind of perseverance, resilience is really so important. And especially as we get older, because if you're done with your job and you stop working, that doesn't mean you're done, right?
No.
Keep going.
You're still here. Yeah.
But there's so many things that you could do that you would find so much satisfaction in. But I see that
so much satisfaction.
When I said earlier, when my friend said, well, why are you doing this? Why not just retire and be done? Because I don't want that. If you want that, that's great. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, wherever you're happy, that's great. I don't want to I don't want to say just. I want to be doing things that really inspire me and motivate me to be a better person. And we don't even have cable. So what am I going to do? Right? I can't even watch soap operas.
That's one of the best answers ever.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Will you tell us about your book and where we could find it?
Yeah. So my book that came out in 2020 is called The Extraordinary Unordinary You.
Oh,
and that one's, thank you, all about realizing what you're capable of and recognizing that the little things you do every day matter. Going back to the little things.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yep. And so stories about Kilimanjaro, adopting our kids. There's a lot of fun stuff in there. A lot of my stories. And then the second book, which comes out in February, is called Real Confidence: A Simple Guide to Go from Unsure to Unshakable. And that is using my real method. A lot of my stories again, but a lot of other people's stories. In this book, I talk about the abusive boyfriend, which I wasn't capable of doing when I wrote the first book. And that shows you how much I have progressed and been able to say, like, wow, this really has impacted other women when I talk about my story. I can't tell you how many women have said to me, I had that same scenario and I've never told anybody before, or, and you're like, wow, okay. So anyways, that comes out February 3rd and I'm super excited for that. And hopefully I'll get some book covers this week, and then I'll start posting those on social to get some
so
thoughts.
Fun. It's so fun that you're having this chapter. People can follow you on social at Simone Knego. That's SimoneKnego.com if you want to reach her. She's on, you're on Instagram and Facebook. Is this correct?
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn.
All the stuff.
Yeah.
All the things. And if you're interested in having her speak at your event or your retreat, you can go to the website and find her for that. I will post the links on the webpage, so you'll be able to get a hold of those. Simone Knego, you are an inspiration and a blessing. And I mean it when I say I can't wait to see what all you do, because I'm rooting for you, girl.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
And thanks for having me today.
You're so welcome. I'm so grateful you listened to this episode. I hope it was a real value to you. If there's a sister in your life who needs this message, please share it, just like women have done to lift each other up over the centuries and across cultures. Women lifting each other is so important. It's why I do this work. And to avoid FOMO and keep up leveling your own life, make sure you don't miss the next episode. You may be losing hormones, but your life has given you powerful perspective. And I believe you have something to give that no one else does, that the world needs. So remember, I'm rooting for you. Let's go.